Ethan Miller was not like the other humans who traveled to the stars. He did not seek wealth or fame. He wanted to see things that no one else could see, to touch the edges of the universe that were still a mystery. When the United Earth Exploration Fleet offered him a place on their new mission to Veyra 5, a planet known for its strange forests and glowing skies, he had jumped at the chance without thinking twice. He had packed light, carrying only what he needed, and had left the crowded cities of Earth behind, trading them for the unknown. Veyra 5 looked nothing like Earth. From above, it was a sea of green and blue, with strange rivers that shimmered like liquid glass under the sunlight. The clouds glowed faintly, as if the sky itself was alive. As the shuttle descended, Ethan could see enormous crystal trees stretching toward the sky, their branches catching the light and reflecting it in 1,000 colors. There was a soft hum in the air, almost like music, and Ethan felt a thrill he had never felt before. The shuttle landed gently near a valley where the forests seemed to open into a clearing. Ethan stepped out carefully, his boots crunching on the strange, soft soil. He looked around, feeling both small and amazed. There were creatures moving among the trees, delicate beings with translucent wings, flying silently above the ground. He had never seen anything like them, and he knew that every moment here could be a discovery. He had been told that Veyra 5 had an intelligent alien race, the Veyrans, who lived in palaces carved into the crystal forests. He did not know exactly what they looked like, only that they were considered beautiful by their own kind, and that humans rarely interacted with them. But Ethan did not care about protocol or fear. He only wanted to see the world as it was, and he wanted to meet the beings who lived here. As he walked toward what appeared to be the main palace, he could see the structure rising from the ground, made entirely of crystal. It caught the sunlight and reflected it in sharp, dazzling patterns. The palace seemed alive, and Ethan felt a sudden respect mixed with nervousness. He had studied the Veyrans in his training, but seeing them in person was different. Everything was larger, brighter, and more alive than he had imagined. Ethan approached the entrance carefully. He had no weapons, only a small scanner and his own wits. The doors to the palace were enormous, carved from a single crystal, and etched with symbols that seemed to shift as he looked at them. He reached out to touch the surface, feeling a vibration run through his hand. It was as if the building itself recognized him. He drew back slightly, startled, but then a soft voice echoed through the hall. "Who are you?" the voice asked. It was melodic and soft, but there was a power behind it that made Ethan freeze. He looked up and saw her. The princess stepped into the light. She was unlike anyone he had ever seen. Her skin glowed faintly, like the crystal walls around her, and her eyes were violet, deep and shining. Her hair flowed down her back in waves that seemed to catch the light and make it shimmer. She was tall, elegant, and poised, moving with a grace that made Ethan's heart race. She looked at him, tilting her head slightly, and asked again, "Why are you staring?" Ethan swallowed, feeling both nervous and honest. He had no idea how to answer a question like that in a situation like this. Most people would have stammered or tried to make a joke. But for some reason, the truth came out easily. The princess blinked at him, her expression unreadable. For a moment, Ethan thought he had offended her. But then, slowly, a small smile appeared on her lips. It was not a full smile, not yet. But it was there, a flicker of amusement, or perhaps curiosity. Ethan felt a strange warmth spread through him, as if he had passed some test without knowing it. The hall was silent for a few moments. Even the soft hum of the palace seemed to pause, as if the building itself was listening. Ethan felt exposed, but not in a bad way. He felt human, and for the first time on Veyra 5, he felt understood. "You are different from the others," the princess said finally, her voice gentle now. "Most humans do not speak so freely, Most are careful, fearful of what they say. I do not like to hide what I think, Ethan said. He moved a little closer, but kept his hands visible, as a sign that he meant no harm. I think that honesty is the only way to understand someone, or a place. The princess studied him, her eyes narrowing slightly as if she were searching his mind. Ethan felt a little nervous under her gaze, but he did not look away. There was something in her expression, something that said she was not just curious, but testing him. Most humans would run if they saw a Veyron up close, she said. They would be afraid. Ethan shook his head. Not me. I am here, to see, to learn. Fear does not help anyone, and I want to understand your world. She stepped back slightly, but there was no anger in her movement. Instead, there was a sense of consideration, as if she was trying to measure his heart. Ethan noticed small details, the way her hands moved, the way her eyes glimmered. She was beautiful, yes, but there was more. There was intelligence, a spark of curiosity, and perhaps even a kindness that she did not often show to strangers. You are brave, she said at last, or foolish. I cannot decide which. I do not think they are very different, Ethan said with a small smile. Sometimes, bravery looks like foolishness. Sometimes, foolishness leads to bravery. The princess tilted her head again and looked at him in a way that made Ethan feel exposed. For a moment, he imagined that she could see into his very thoughts. And he did not mind. He did not have any secrets that mattered here. He wanted to know her world, and he wanted to be honest. You may walk with me, she said finally. But you must follow my rules. The palace is not a place for humans, and you must not touch anything that is not given to you. Understand? Yes, Ethan said. I understand. I only want to see and learn. I will respect your world. She nodded once and began to walk down the hall. Ethan followed, careful to keep a respectful distance. The walls of the palace reflected light in strange patterns, making it feel like they were moving through a dream. Ethan could hear soft music playing somewhere in the distance. But it was unlike any music he had ever heard. It was not made by instruments but seemed to come from the palace itself, or from the air. As they walked, Ethan noticed small details that fascinated him. The floor was smooth, like glass, but warm to the touch. The walls shifted slightly as they passed, forming patterns of light that were almost like living paintings. Vines of crystal climbed along the pillars, glowing faintly in the light. Ethan wanted to reach out and touch them, but he remembered the princess's warning and kept his hands at his sides. You humans are strange, the princess said suddenly. You are fragile. Yet you survive in places no one expects. You are small. Yet you think so big. Ethan laughed softly. Maybe we have to. The universe is a big place. If we do not think big, we do not last long. She considered this, walking beside him in silence for a few steps. Perhaps you are not like the others. Perhaps I will learn something from you. Ethan felt a thrill at her words. No human had ever been invited to walk through a Veyron palace like this. Most humans had only heard stories, had only seen the Veyrons from a distance. He felt honored, but also aware of the weight of this moment. They reached a large window that looked out over the crystal forest. Light poured in, making the princess's hair glow even more brightly. Ethan looked out at the world below, at the glowing rivers and towering trees, and felt a sense of wonder that words could not describe. It is beautiful, he said quietly. I have never seen anything like it. The princess looked at him, her eyes soft now. Yes, it is beautiful. But beauty can be dangerous. You must remember that, human. I understand, Ethan said. But I cannot help seeing it. Just as I cannot help noticing you. The princess's smile widened slightly. She shook her head. almost in disbelief, but there was no anger in her voice. "You are bold," she said. "I do not know if I like that or fear it." Ethan only smiled back, feeling a connection that he had not expected. He did not know what the future would hold on Vera 5. But he knew that this moment, this first encounter, was the beginning of something important. He had seen beauty and honesty together in a way that no one on Earth could understand. And he would not forget it. The princess turned away from the window and began walking again. Ethan followed, ready to see where this path would take him. He felt alive in a way he never had before. The palace was strange, the world was strange. But here, he belonged not by right, but by choice. And for the first time, he realized that sometimes the universe rewarded honesty and courage in ways no one could predict. Ethan walked through the palace with Princess Lyra, feeling a mix of awe and nervousness. Every corner of the building was strange and beautiful. The walls shimmered softly, like they were alive. Light moved across the floors in patterns that changed as they walked. Ethan tried to remember every detail, every color, every sound. He wanted to carry Vera 5 inches his mind forever. Lyra moved with grace, and Ethan noticed the way her eyes shifted constantly, taking in everything around her. She seemed aware of every sound, every shadow, every shimmer of light. Humans often walked quickly without noticing their surroundings, but she noticed everything. He realized that to her, he was an outsider. Every move he made was unusual. "You humans do not pay attention to details," she said suddenly. Ethan jumped slightly, realizing she had spoken. "You walk and talk without seeing the world. You miss the small things that matter." "I notice what I care about," Ethan replied. "I try to see what is important. Right now, I care about understanding your world." Lyra tilted her head, studying him. "You are brave, human, or foolish. It is hard to tell." "Sometimes bravery and foolishness are the same," Ethan said with a small smile. "It depends on how you look at it." Lyra did not answer immediately. Instead, she led him down a long hallway that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were covered with glowing vines, and the ceiling opened into a sky that was not real, but looked as though the real sky had been captured and placed above them. Ethan's heart raced. He had never seen anything so beautiful, so strange, and yet so calm. "You are not like the others," Lyra said quietly. "Most humans would be afraid to be here. They would fall to their knees, beg for permission, or run away. You do none of those things." Ethan shrugged. "I am not afraid. I want to see. I want to learn. Fear does not help anyone." Lyra looked at him for a long moment. There was a small smile on her lips, but her eyes were serious. "Humans are simple in some ways, but you can also be clever. You do not know how to follow rules, yet you can understand them quickly when you try." "War," Ethan nodded. "I always try to understand. That is the only way to survive anywhere, not just on Earth, but in space too." They reached a large room filled with strange objects that glowed softly. Some looked like furniture, but they moved slightly, as though alive. Others looked like machines, but Ethan could not figure out how they worked. Lyra walked past them with ease, touching a few gently. Ethan followed, careful not to disturb anything. "Most humans would break something if they touched it," Lyra said. "You are careful, but you do not seem afraid. That is unusual." "I respect what I cannot understand," Ethan said. "I do not need to touch everything to know it is beautiful. Some things are meant to be seen, not held." Lyra seemed surprised by his words. She stopped and looked at him closely. "You speak differently from the others. Your words, they are honest. You do not hide behind fear or pride." "I do not like hiding," Ethan admitted. I have seen too much of the universe to hide from it. Hiding does not help anyone. It only makes life smaller. Lyra nodded slowly. Perhaps that is why you are here. Perhaps the universe brought you to me for this reason. Ethan felt a strange warmth in his chest. He did not fully understand what she meant, but he knew that her words were not ordinary. The palace seemed quieter, as if the walls themselves were listening to their conversation. As they walked, Lyra explained some of the rules of her palace. She spoke slowly, in a voice that was soft but firm. Humans were rare here, and most of them did not understand the customs. She warned him not to touch certain objects, not to walk in certain areas without permission, and not to speak too freely about what he saw. Ethan listened carefully, nodding. I understand, he said. I want to follow your rules. I want to learn. I will not make mistakes on purpose. Lyra studied him, her violet eyes moving over his face. You may still make mistakes, she said, but you will learn from them faster than the others. That is useful. Ethan smiled. I always learn. That is how humans survive. They entered a large courtyard filled with glowing plants and fountains that seemed to float above the ground. Strange creatures moved among the plants. Creatures with long legs and delicate wings that shimmered in the air. Ethan had never seen anything like them. He wanted to reach out and touch one, but he remembered Lyra's words and only watched quietly. You are quiet now, Lyra said. I expected you to speak constantly, to ask questions without pause. Humans are usually loud, like storms. You are calm. I observe first, Ethan said. I ask questions after. Otherwise, I might miss something important. The universe is full of things that need careful attention. Lyra tilted her head, considering him. Perhaps that is why you notice what others do not. Perhaps that is why you are not afraid. Ethan laughed softly. I am human. We are afraid sometimes, but we face what we must. Running from fear does not solve anything. We survive by facing it and learning from it. Lyra's eyes glimmered, and for a moment, Ethan thought she would say more. But she only turned and led him to a small pavilion at the center of the courtyard. Light poured in from the walls and ceiling, bathing the room in a soft glow. This is where I come to think, she said. Most humans would not understand it. But you may. Ethan stepped inside carefully, looking around. The pavilion was quiet, filled with soft light, and the faint hum of energy that seemed alive. He could feel it in his chest, a gentle warmth that made him feel connected to everything around him. It is beautiful, he said quietly. I have never seen a place like this. Lyra studied him for a long moment. You do not say that to be polite, she said. You mean it. Yes, Ethan said simply. I mean it. There is no need to lie about beauty. You cannot lie to it. Lyra seemed to smile, a little wider now. She walked closer to him, her eyes still on his face. You are human. And yet, you see the world differently. Perhaps that is why I am curious about you. Perhaps that is why you are not afraid. Ethan felt his heart beat faster. He did not know what to say, but he did not need to speak. His honesty was enough. She seemed to understand him without words, and that was a strange and wonderful feeling. They sat together in the pavilion, looking out over the glowing courtyard. Ethan asked questions about the Veyran world, about the creatures, the plants, and the palace. Lyra answered patiently, explaining the customs, the history, and the small details that humans would usually miss. Ethan listened carefully, fascinated by every word. You ask good questions, Lyra said. Most humans are careless. They see and forget. You see and remember. I try to, Ethan said. I want to understand, not just see. Seeing is not enough. Understanding makes life meaningful. Lyra considered his words, her eyes softening. You are strange, human. But perhaps that is a good thing. Perhaps the world needs strangeness. Sometimes. Ethan smiled. Perhaps it does. And perhaps the universe knows who to send to learn the most. For a while, they sat in silence, watching the light move across the courtyard. Ethan felt a sense of peace he had never felt before. He was far from Earth, far from his friends and family, yet he felt at home in a way that surprised him. Humans are strange, Lyra said finally, breaking the silence. They are small and fragile, yet they endure. They are weak, yet clever. They are unpredictable. And you are the most unusual human I have ever met. I am just me, Ethan said softly. But I have learned one thing about your world. It is not just beautiful, it is alive, and it speaks to those who listen. Lay no. Asks work. Lyra looked at him, her violet eyes reflecting the glowing courtyard. You listen well, she said. Perhaps that is why you are not afraid. Perhaps that is why you see more than others. Perhaps that is why you are here. Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. He did not know if he understood her meaning fully, but he knew that she had accepted him in some way that no human had been accepted before. He had seen beauty, and he had been honest, and it had brought him closer to a world that had seemed impossible to reach. As the sun began to set on the glowing sky of Vera 5, Ethan and Lyra continued to walk through the palace. He asked more questions, learned more customs, and tried to understand everything around him. And with each step, he felt a strange connection to the princess, to her world, and to the strange and wonderful life he had discovered here. For the first time in his life, Ethan realized that bravery was not just about fighting or surviving. It was about seeing, understanding, and being honest in a world that was completely different from your own. And he felt ready for whatever the universe would show him next. Ethan had spent several days walking through the palace with Princess Lyra, learning about her world and discovering the strange, glowing beauty of Vera 5. He had never imagined that a place could feel so alive, or that an alien could be so fascinating. Each day brought new wonders, and each conversation with Lyra taught him more about patience, observation, and understanding. But peace on Vera 5 was fragile. Ethan noticed small things that unsettled him. Shadows that moved too quickly, distant echoes of unfamiliar sounds, and the occasional hurried glance from a palace guard. Lyra noticed it too, though she did not speak about it. The Varans had enemies, rival factions, who often tried to take power or steal resources from the royal family. Ethan could feel the tension in the air even before it fully arrived. One afternoon, as they walked through the crystal gardens, Ethan paused to look at a strange, glowing flower. Its petals pulsed softly, and it released tiny sparkles into the air like fireflies. I have never seen anything like this, he said quietly. Lyra smiled faintly, but her eyes were serious. It is rare. Only blooms when the air is calm and the energy of the palace is undisturbed. You should be careful. The calm will not last. Ethan frowned. What do you mean? Before Lyra could answer, a distant sound shattered the quiet of the gardens. It was low at first, like a hum, but quickly grew into a deep, violent roar. The ground trembled beneath Ethan's feet, and the glowing flowers around them shivered, as if frightened. Lyra's face changed instantly. Her violet eyes hardened, and her ears twitched slightly. We are under attack, she said sharply. Come with me. Now. Ethan followed her as she sprinted toward the palace. The corridors were no longer calm and beautiful. Alarms rang out, and red lights flashed along the crystal walls. Guards ran past them, carrying energy weapons that hummed with power. Ethan's heart pounded. He had trained for emergencies, but nothing had prepared him for seeing a real attack on an alien palace. Lyra led him to a high balcony overlooking the courtyard. There, Ethan saw the attackers. They were a group of armored Vayrans, unlike the royal family, moving with speed and precision. They carried weapons that pulsed with energy, aiming to break through the palace defenses. The sight was terrifying. Yet Ethan could not look away. "They want to capture the princess," Lyra said. "They want to take the throne for themselves. If they succeed, our world will be thrown into chaos." Ethan's mind raced. He had no weapons suited for this fight, no knowledge of Veyran combat. But he knew one thing clearly. He could not run. "What can I do?" he asked. Lyra studied him for a moment, then handed him a small, glowing device. "This is a disruptor. It will disable their energy shields for a few moments. Use it carefully. You must aim at their central units, or it will not work." Ethan nodded, gripping the device tightly. "I can do this." Lyra turned and sprinted down the stairs, disappearing into the chaos. Ethan followed, his boots making soft sounds on the crystal floor. The palace was filled with smoke and flashing lights. Guards shouted orders, energy weapons fired, and the hum of the attackers' machines filled the air. Ethan tried to stay calm, focusing on the task at hand. They reached a large hall where the attackers had begun breaking through the defenses. Ethan hid behind a crystal pillar, peeking out to see the movement of the enemy. He watched as two attackers aimed at a group of palace guards. Timing was everything. He pressed the button on the disruptor, and a pulse of energy shot forward, hitting the attackers' shields. They staggered, confused. The guards took advantage of the moment, moving forward to push them back. Ethan felt a rush of adrenaline. He could do this. Humans were small and fragile compared to Vayrans, but they were clever. He remembered the stories he had read about Earth's explorers who had survived in hostile worlds. It was not strength alone that mattered. It was thinking quickly, adapting, and using the environment. The battle raged on. Ethan moved from pillar to pillar, targeting attackers' energy units with the disruptor. Each time, he saw a small success, a shield drop, a guard survive. Lyra appeared at his side, moving with the speed and grace of a predator. She fought with precision, her weapon flashing in her hands, disabling attackers with a skill Ethan could not match. Yet she did not ignore him. She nodded each time he helped. "You humans are unpredictable," she shouted over the noise. "That is, useful." Ethan laughed, even as his heart pounded. "We have to be. Otherwise, we would not survive." The attackers had begun to retreat, sensing that their careful plan had failed. But they were not gone yet. Ethan noticed a group trying to flank the princess, aiming directly for her. Without thinking, he sprinted forward, placing himself between them and Lyra. He activated the disruptor again, hitting the energy shields and giving her a chance to strike. She moved quickly, knocking the attackers off balance and forcing them to retreat further. Lyra looked at him, her violet eyes wide with surprise. "You are brave, or foolish," she said, her voice breathless from the fight. "Sometimes bravery looks like foolishness," Ethan replied, smiling even as his arms shook from adrenaline. The remaining attackers fled into the forests, disappearing into the glowing trees. The palace was quiet again, except for the heavy breathing of guards and the faint hum of energy weapons cooling down. Ethan and Lyra stood together in the center of the hall, surveying the aftermath. "You saved lives," Lyra said softly. "You could have been hurt, or worse." "I know," Ethan said, "but I could not let them reach you. I had to try. Humans survive by acting, not by hiding." Lyra studied him for a long moment. There was a softness in her expression now, mixed with awe. "You are not like the others," she said finally. "Most humans would panic, most humans would run. But you acted. You faced danger when it mattered." Ethan shrugged. I only did what anyone would do to protect someone important. Lyra shook her head. No, most would not. You are different. I think I am beginning to understand humans better because of you. The palace began to settle. Guards moved through the halls, checking for damage, repairing energy barriers, and tending to the wounded. Ethan watched, feeling a strange mix of pride and humility. He had come to Vera 5 to explore, to see, to learn, but now he had done something more. He had helped protect a world, and he had earned a small place in it. Lyra walked beside him, her hand brushing against his arm briefly. You are clever, she said softly. Not just brave, but clever. You see opportunities others do not. You think differently. That is a rare gift. Ethan felt a warmth spread through him. He had never expected praise from a Veyran princess, especially after fighting alongside her in real danger. Thank you, he said quietly. I only did what I had to do. You do not understand, Lyra said, looking at him with serious eyes. What you did. It is more than action. It is understanding. Humans, your kind can survive in ways we cannot imagine. You are small, fragile, yet you adapt. You are not strong like Veyrans. But you have something more, something dangerous in the right way. That is why I am not afraid of you. Ethan blinked. You're not afraid? Lyra shook her head. No. Most would fear an outsider who does not follow our rules. But you act with thought and honesty. That is unusual. That is beautiful in its own way. Ethan felt a strange shiver of pride and humility. I only try to do the right thing, he said. I guess sometimes that is enough. Lyra smiled faintly, and it was the first full smile he had seen from her since their first meeting. Sometimes it is enough, she said softly. Today, it was more than enough. The palace was quiet now. Guards patrolled the halls carefully, and energy shields were repaired. Ethan and Lyra walked through the hallways, checking the areas that had been attacked. The floor was slightly damaged in places, and some objects had fallen, but nothing was lost. The attackers had not succeeded. You, humans. You are strange, Lyra said suddenly. So small, so fragile, yet capable of great things. Perhaps that is why I am curious about you. Perhaps you are not just a visitor. Perhaps you are something more. Ethan looked at her, unsure how to respond. I don't know about that, he said. I am just me. But I do know this. I will not run from what needs to be done. That is how humans survive. I will not run. That is how humans. Lyra nodded slowly. Then perhaps we can learn from each other. Perhaps humans and Veyrans are not so different after all. Not in courage. At least. Ethan felt a thrill at her words. The danger was over for now, but he knew that the universe would always bring challenges. Yet he also knew that he had proven something, not just to Lyra, but to himself. Humans might be small and fragile, but they could act with courage, with thought, and with honesty. And in the right moment, that could change the course of a battle, and perhaps even the fate of worlds. They walked together to the palace gardens, now quiet under the glowing sky. The flowers, once trembling, returned to their soft pulse. The fountains flowed calmly again. Ethan looked at Lyra, her violet eyes reflecting the light, and realized something he had not felt before. Respect, trust, and perhaps even a connection that went beyond words. Today, Lyra said softly, you showed me something I did not expect. You showed me the human way. You showed me courage, honesty, and Beauty in action. Ethan smiled. I only did what I had to do. But I am glad it matters to you. Lyra looked at him, her expression thoughtful. It matters more than you know, Ethan. More than you can imagine. Perhaps this is only the beginning. Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of her words. The palace was safe for now, but he knew that the universe was unpredictable. Danger could return at any moment. But for the first time, he felt ready not because of strength or weapons, but because of courage, thought, and the human heart. And in that moment, walking beside Princess Lyra, Ethan knew that humans had a place among the stars, not just as explorers, but as survivors, thinkers, and perhaps even heroes. Part 3, complete to 1,400 words.